Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via live stream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbprou.com.
Good evening and welcome back to Leadership Live at 8:05. I'm your host, Andrew Frazier. Excited to be here hanging out with you once again. As you know, your business can only go as far as you're prepared to take it. So what we do here is help you develop the knowledge and leadership skills to be able to take your business further, faster. And we do that by having great guests who are experts in their respective fields, sharing their knowledge and expertise. Small Business Pro University's focus is really helping empower entrepreneurs, business owners to really sell more, make more, and obtain financing. And we do that through helping you work on your business and scale. So we have three key pillars within the university. We have the pillar of revenue generation, profit maximization, and growth financing. So tonight's show is focused on the first pillar, growing revenue. As you probably heard me say before, your most important job as an entrepreneur and business owner is marketing and selling. So that's why we focused on, that's why this is pillar number one, and that's why we focus on it the most. So there's so much to know and so much to learn about sales and marketing, especially in the digital age. So it's great that we continue to have guests who can share their area of expertise within sales and marketing. And that's really what our show is about tonight. My guest this evening is Reed Hansen. And we're going to talk about not all leads are created equal. At the end of the day, generating customers, a key part of that is figuring out who's a lead. But also you want to have good leads. So, we're going to talk a little bit about what a lead is, how you generate them, and how do you make sure that the leads you have are worth having. So my guest tonight, Reed Hansen. Hey, Reed, how you doing tonight?
Doing great. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. I'm glad to have you here. I'm here in Jersey, but definitely you're out in Chi-Town. So, right. We got an hour on you, but glad that you could take time this evening to hang out with us.
My pleasure. This is a great community, and I've really enjoyed following your podcast.
Excellent. No, I appreciate that. And we've had a chance to talk, so I've gotten to know you and a little bit about what you do, but my audience definitely hasn't been introduced to you. And I can't really do your introduction justice. Sure. So what I'd like for you to do is take a few minutes and sort of introduce yourself and let people know a little bit about your journey. And then we'll go from there. Sound good?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll jump right in. Reed Hansen. I am the Chief Growth Officer and owner at MarketSurge, a digital agency. So I'm a marketer, an entrepreneur, and a problem solver. I started working with my father at a very young age. When I was 8 years old, he took me along. He had a landscaping business. And so after school and weekends, I was out there, picking up rocks and digging trenches as I was able, and really learned the value of hard work and relationships, and just delivering a great service. So, fast forward through high school, college, and I exited college, and I actually landed in software sales. I found that really interesting and valuable. I think that sales and selling are skills that are applicable in so many situations. I'll say this: I worked with Oracle, which is a very meticulous organization and a sales group that has just every possible rule that you can imagine. And I learned how to be extra careful about qualifying leads in particular. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. I gradually transitioned into digital marketing and took my sales skills and worked in business development and leadership roles at these agencies. I built and sold, along with my wife, a 7-figure photography studio business, and have led some growth strategies for both startups and Fortune 500 companies. But now I'm focused at MarketSurge on helping entrepreneurs and other service businesses scale with smart digital systems that they don't just look good, they drive revenue. And like I said, I'm very pumped to be here and really excited to dig in on marketing, growth, sales, and business.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to have you here as a guest. You've definitely seen the industry in a lot of different ways, which I definitely want to sort of dig into, because there's a lot to be learned about what's happening now, but also historically there's practices that continue to work. So even before the digital age, there's things that you need to know about sales and marketing if you haven't learned it. So definitely look forward to really going in depth, and definitely appreciate everybody's comments so far. Look forward to your questions and your comments as we go forward. But before we get started, just want to share a little bit about Small Business Pro University, since this show is one of our Brain Trust initiatives. Many small businesses experience low or no revenue growth, and the owners are not making enough money. I founded Small Business Pro University to help you break that cycle by empowering you with greater knowledge and enhanced skills to lead your organization more effectively. Over the past 15 years, I've collaborated with organizations like the Small Business Development Center, Rising Tide Capital, Empower the Village, NJMEP, Rutgers University, and SCORE to work one-on-one with over 1,000 business owners and teach tens of thousands of people about business. My experience includes serving as a naval officer, managing businesses, graduating from MIT, earning an MBA from NYU, and achieving the CFA designation, which has prepared me to accomplish my mission of helping 1 million and 8 business owners to sell more, maximize profit, and finance growth by 2028. My vision is to create the ultimate business ecosystem for entrepreneurs. Small Business Pro University empowers entrepreneurs like you to run their businesses more professionally and create sustainable enterprises. We employ my proven proprietary Masterpreneur Playbook framework to guide your journey along the Masterpreneur path and facilitate your Masterpreneur evolution to work on your business and scale faster and easier. Small Business Pro University provides access to valuable resources, partnerships, and relationships that will help you to sell more, maximize profit, and finance growth. Our Masterpreneur initiatives include
the Small Business Pro Network, 100 plus expert-led multimedia courses, intensive training workshops, Spanish language training, Leadership Live at 8:05 live stream and podcast, in-person Power Breakfast events, and advisory coaching, consulting, and training services.
Okay, welcome back. I'm here with Reed Hansen, talking small business. Tonight's topic is not all leads are created equal. So before we talk about what leads are created equal, what is a lead? Let's go back to basics. What's a lead, and how do they work?
Well, I would say a lead is any individual or business that you have some evidence or indication that they could be a potential customer. And I suppose there's the variety of definitions, but it's the potential to become a customer. So some might say it's a little further along, like they've taken some action, like a step towards becoming a customer, whether that's downloading a piece of valuable content from your website, or filled out a form, or clicked on an ad. But it could also be, I would say that's a warm lead. A colder lead would be somebody that fits the profile of your ideal customer.
Okay, so really, your target market is sort of the profile. So
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Certain people in your target market you could consider leads, and then also people who've actually taken some activity to recognize, or that you can recognize around your business. So now, why are leads so important? We're talking about leads tonight. Why? Why shouldn't we talk about sales or some other topic within sales and marketing? Why are leads so important?
Well, they're a very important piece of the equation for what makes your business profitable and successful and able to grow. I don't want to jump ahead and assume too much, but when we talk about the sales funnel, the first thing that goes in the top of the sales funnel are leads. Now, like I was saying, there's a few different kinds of leads, and they move further down the funnel and are filtered more as they better fit, and they exhibit characteristics of what makes a customer for you. Now, it's going to be different for every business, but within your business, you should try to identify frameworks that enable some consistency. So I don't want to jump ahead, but the leads are important as, I would say, fuel for your sales machine, your sales and growth machines.
Okay. All right. So definitely they're early on in the sales process,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely identifying people to sell to, who need what you can provide to them is key. And one thing a lot of small business owners do is they get busy, and it's great to have work, but then when they finish projects, then they don't have work.
Yes.
So how do leads play in that? And what do you think, what's the issue there, and how can they resolve that?
Well, we can talk more about the sales process or the sales funnel along with the leads. Now, obviously, a large number of leads is great for a business. And the leads, they in order to take them from lead to customer, they need to go through a process. So the first thing they need to go through is some form of qualification. So I saw somebody asked in the chat something about, how do I know which leads, Kathy said, what's the first sign a lead isn't worth pursuing? And now what I would say, again, it's different for every business, but if you can identify like consistent themes among your customers, you could use a framework, say like the BANT framework. So that would be, do they have the budget for you? That's the B. Do they have, are they the person in authority to make a decision? So that's the A. Do they have the need? Do they actually need your solution? Or is it just an interesting product you offer? Do they really need it? And is the timing right? Like, are they ready and willing to buy within a near immediate time frame? So, anywhere between 0 and 30 days. Now that's a big framework that would apply to almost every business. You can add additional qualifiers. In some cases, maybe there are other peripheral things, like if they need to be a homeowner for many home services. They need to live within your serviceable area. So these are questions that you should know ahead of time and handle these consistently. Now there's, so I believe the original question, so when a lead isn't worth pursuing is if they don't check those boxes. And there's red, yellow, green light kind of mentality. Many people will never qualify for your services. Like they're just frankly not the decision maker in this situation. It's somebody very low in the organization, or some other disqualifying factor. The additional so if they don't check any of the boxes, they're in the red light. In the yellow light, usually it's around timing. Usually they're very interested, they need the product, but they don't have the budget for it now, or they're going to fit you in next year's in next quarter, or they need to hire somebody to work on this. So there's a lot of reasons. Yellow is a very common thing, and you need to keep those still in a process, and you still have to have tasks to follow up when they're ready. But then green, you have to manage a sales process and assume that they are ready to sell and be focused on trying to close out the deal with each interaction.
Excellent. Okay. So definitely, we're looking at leads. We got a couple questions from the audience. So I figured I think you said a little bit about this, but what is your number one tip for finding high quality leads faster?
Yeah, my number one tip is the use of forms, digital forms. So if you use those effectively, those can be a tremendous way to filter leads. So the very first thing if somebody is willing to fill out a form, either on a Facebook ad or on your website, that they've got a little initiative and they've got some inertia towards becoming your customer. Now, within that form, though, it should have some potential logic. It should have both collect their contact information, their business, their need, and give them an open field question. So we're starting to get kind of tactical, but give them an open field question that requires them to describe what their need is and why they reached out to you. Now, if they can clear those hurdles, then that is probably the easiest way that especially a small business owner can qualify a high quality lead.
All right. Okay. Great. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about that, and it's good that you're talking. A lot of people just talk high level about stuff that is nice to know, but you can't really do based on the discussion. So I think breaking it down into the details, especially for small business owners, you don't have a lot of time, you don't have a whole team to manage everything for you. So now you talked about creating digital forms, and you said it like, oh, just create some digital forms. But for many people, they don't even really know what a digital form is, let alone how to create one. So could you talk, what's a digital form? Yeah. Where can you get them from, and how do you create one?
Great. And I appreciate the opportunity to clarify, because so I'm immersed in this, and so sometimes I make some assumptions, but the digital form, we've all interacted with digital forms. One example would be when you log into your email. That's a form, and when you submit it successfully, it allows you access to something. Now, so in theory, the form is the gateway to something in your they can access in your business. There's and there are forms all over my website for marketing purposes. I have pop-up forms on various landing pages in my website. For example, for my pest control. So I have a lot of pest control clients, and I get a lot of leads in the pest control industry. They go to my landing page for pest control. There's a pop-up that asks for information about what they are looking for. And that on that pop-up, it has fields. Some are required, some are optional. They fill that out. And this form actually says, fill this out for, well, I have one that's fill this out for a callback from a MarketSurge team member, and another that says, where I use a lead magnet. So lead magnet is in return for them giving me their contact information, they get to download a PDF guide or a video webinar about marketing best practices for 2025 for pest control businesses. And I have those all over my website. Those forms help me to qualify these leads. They help me to have access to communicate back with them for follow-up and potentially long-term nurture. Now, the way you would build and access a form is if you're using a CRM so there's a couple of ways. If you have a website, that's a good step. On the back end of the website, there are elements where you can create these forms, and you have to make sure that form, whatever is entered, it gets to you. So, that's a key step in creating a form. Make sure that lead is sent to you. Many websites are built on a combo system like a CRM. So that would be like a HubSpot or a Go High Level system. I'm sure there's many others that you could be using. And within that, you have a sales process management tool, the website on top of it, and the form that you can build in the tool. You take the code and you embed it as an object into any page on your website that is relevant. Forms can also be applied on ads. So if you've ever seen an ad for, hey, fill out this form and enter to win, or fill out this form and get our free guide to, blankety blank, and then you're emailed something in return. Those are some of the major applications. And there's a lot of additional technologies you can apply in forms, including like if they answer a question one way, then it gives them a different set of follow-up questions. Or there are survey question forms like, I'll give one example. My wife is a boudoir photographer, and she has a quiz on her website that says, what is your boudoir style? And it's a questionnaire, and they fill it out. It kind of feels like a game. And then at the end, they're given a report and told what their particular style is and what kind of photo shoot they should look at. And so I hope that adds a lot of color. I don't want to get too high level or too low level. So keep me on track.
Okay. No, I think that was excellent. Definitely, forms are, can save time and make life easier.
Yes.
One form that I use continuously is appointment scheduling form.
Yeah.
And you can incorporate questions into that. You mentioned, on your website, there may be the capability I've also seen people use Google Forms. Google has free access to forms, which is actually pretty good. I just did one that I was impressed with kind of the capabilities for that. So and all these things, I guess you can sort of do yourself. Do you need someone to help you, or what do you need to be able to do to determine whether you need someone to help you or you can do it yourself?
Great question. So, you should do whatever you feel comfortable with or feel up to, but it is really doing things like this between many of these very user-friendly platforms for website building and sales management. It can be quite intuitive. And if you have the ability to watch a tutorial YouTube video that will walk you step by step through almost any aspect of any public software, you should be able to do this on your own. And they're designed to do so. If you want to go as far as do something a little custom, a little outside of the box, and you would need some CSS coding to make it work, I would ask, before you hire a developer, I would ask ChatGPT if you can get the code to do what you you want it to do, because ChatGPT is excellent at coding and also takes feedback and will revise if you don't get what you want the first time. So I absolutely think you can do it yourself, but there are resources, whether you hire an agency or you hire a contractor on a platform like Upwork, that this is quite easy and anybody should be able to do that quickly.
Okay, excellent. So it's definitely something that we can do.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be able to do it yourself, because if you need to make adjustments, you don't have to wait for somebody else or pay more to make it happen. So definitely that. You brought up a term, CRM, which is basically the customer relationship management system. And really, you talked about a couple HubSpot. There's quite a few HubSpot.
Salesforce.com.
Salesforce for small businesses, I don't
yeah, not so much.
It's too hard.
Go high level is what I use, for instance.
Okay, go high level. And there's some that are all in one that do your website and everything, and then there's some that are individual that you can hook together to get your full platform. So depending on what you need, your price point, your capabilities, there's a lot of options. But what is the most important function of a CRM? Well,
the most important function is to be able to, that's hard to say. But I'll name a few that I'll say I think are all most important. But one is the modern CRM automates a lot of the sales process. So that would include a lot of reminders. You mentioned calendars. So a sales process frequently includes a lot of meetings. So you've got your sales meeting, you've got meetings to discuss a proposal, you've got meetings to actually deliver the service you're offering. And the CRM is a key piece in sending reminders, holding calendar spots, blocking that off, and doing that automatically, because of course you can do that manually, but as your business grows, you do not want to be at risk of losing a lead because you forgot to send a reminder or you forgot to send the calendar invite. And when you set up an automated process in a CRM, it makes life so much easier. Now, so additional things that a CRM can provide that are extremely important are tracking the progress of your sales funnel and enable you to forecast. So over time, you'll see that people at various stages of your sales process, whether it's like they They've reached out, but you haven't talked to them yet. That's one stage. You've talked to them and you have qualified that they are like a green light client, like we talked about before. And then you go to the next step where you have presented pricing, and then potentially that they are ready to close or they've signed. And then you go right to the kickoff of whatever you're doing. And I guess I'm talking in terms of assuming that a lot of people are delivering services, but there would be similar processes that apply to like a custom product you make. So being able to track that and knowing that, say, X percentage of my leads at this stage convert to actually showing up on the phone, and this percentage of these that show up on the phone actually qualify for the next step, and these that see pricing, this percentage goes. When you're able to track that, you can make decisions about your business, like hiring, ad spend, budgeting, potentially, like if all of a sudden your lead volume just shrank or just dropped off for some reason, you'd know that maybe, and you wouldn't feel it today, but you would feel it a few months out as you had a gap of leads. And so you need to take some steps to remedy that. So I'd say those are two of the key resources of a CRM that you should primarily utilize.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, CRMs can be great. It takes a little while to fully understand them. You can't go from zero to expert marketer in a week, but you continue to build and develop on the tools, because there's some amazing tools out there. You talked about forecasting, which is so important in business, not just on the marketing side, but on the financial side, and many times on the operations side too. And really what forecasting is trying to lay out what you expect to happen in the future. And that's what working on your business is all about. Most people get stuck working in their business, and as a result aren't working on it. And that's one of the things that I really focus on, is helping people to be able to go from working in their business to working on their business to scaling their business. And I created the Masterpreneur Playbook as a way to guide people along that path. And just, there's 5 key steps to go from startup to scaling. So I'm just going to put that up real quick so people can see. And really, in the beginning, you're working on the concept of your business. You're working to develop your business plan, figure out your marketing plan and your product, so you can get started. Once you do that, and really at that stage, you're more of an entrepreneur. You're trying to figure out the problem you're going to solve and who you're going to solve it for. The next stage, working in your business, you're making some sales. You're developing your sales or product delivery process. And the key concept of there is to be able to generate enough sales to grow and to build enough of a business model. So, in that stage, you're more of, an employee or supervisor type of role. You are not only looking to run your business, but you got to grow your business, and your communication skills are super important at that level. Level 3, working on your business. First, you have to have a business to work on. So, you have to be making sales and a fair amount of sales to really have enough of a business to work on. And then also, you have to evolve as a business owner from, working in your business to becoming a manager, which takes totally different skills than the other stages. So that's why most people never successfully do that. But when you start working on your business, then you have the ability to plan and prepare for the future and forecast. And that's really what we're talking about. If you're working on your business, you're looking forward and running your business, rather than having your business run you. And then from there, working on the future of your business, developing your growth strategy, and then finally scaling your business. So, that's really the path that every business needs to take to go from startup to scaling. But, as I said, probably 95% of business owners never even work on their business successfully. So part of what we do at Small Business Pro University is try and help you understand what it takes to do that and how to do that. So, so definitely forecasting. I'm glad you mentioned that. And, really not just forecasting, but, gives you an understanding of your pipeline. So, what is, you talked a little bit about it, but, what is a sales pipeline all about? And what are key factors that that play into it, or we should utilize or identify in our sales pipeline?
Yeah, that's a great question, and there was a question too in the comments. How do you balance lead volume and lead quality in a high growth business environment? And I would totally say that the sales process is the answer to that question. We need to, so as you scale, you want to use a process that's repeatable. So a repeatable process allows you to, anything you do on many, many times over and over again, you get better at and you get faster at. And with your sales, like we said, we need to identify the characteristics of your ideal client and know as early as possible people that don't fit your ideal. So, it would be silly just because somebody was interested in your product to spend many calls and meetings or follow-up emails on somebody that was never going to buy in the first place. They never had enough budget in the first place. So, so those are questions that you need to get out of the way very early in the process to manage your own time and resources, and to take those leads successfully to customer status. Now, like I said, there's several steps along the way. You're going to have to identify those, what's repeatable about each, like where are these leads coming from? What information do you know about them? And what is generally the timing for making these kinds of purchases? But you can describe that in a CRM. And the way I think about it is it's moving. And the way it usually looks on the screen of a CRM is there are stages that are columns. So you'll have a little object that is, say, a person or a business that is a potential client, and you'll be putting them in a column. So the first column that they're in is they're the lead. And when they're ready for the next level, that they've showed up for the call, then you move them to call completed. And so you're moving them through one step at a time as they give you additional information and show themselves to be more and more of a fit for working with. And it's column to column to column until finally they reach customer status. Now, we also use the term funnel because the most people you have are going to be at the beginning of the process. And if that's not the case, you need more leads. But if you have like a big bottleneck where you're getting a ton of leads, but not a ton of people showing up for meetings or calls, that's something that you need to address. You need to ask yourself and your process, why am I not getting them onto calls? I've had the situation where somebody had a tremendous amount of Facebook leads, but and the ask was that they scheduled a meeting, and it turns out that these people were scheduling meetings, but the owner of the business wasn't didn't apply the right email address, and so wasn't getting the meeting invites. And so you need to track these very carefully and get at a granular level to make sure every touch point is functioning well and moving people from lead to customer.
Okay, great. So now, when you're talking about leads, you mentioned a little bit earlier, but how is it different when you're looking at service businesses versus product businesses?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think it probably matters into the level of customization required. A product-based business, we could be talking about like an e-commerce type business where you're selling goods online that are delivered, like furniture or clothing or something like that. Whereas services usually could be anything from a beautician to building custom websites. Now, because part of the sales process becomes defining what the product is in the service environment, and you can, so as a service business, can really utilize that to his or her advantage by engaging the customer even more tightly than they could otherwise in a situation where you're selling them the one product. So you need to make it a process of back and forth, asking questions, clarifying, and maybe making recommendations. So in the case of a website, I would say, okay, well, give me some examples of what you want in a website. And then we take a look together, and I'd say, well, honestly, in my experience, I think there are even better options. Or, I like what you thought here. What if we also added, a industry specific page, just to get specific. But a custom services business has to gather a lot more information to deliver a custom service. Now the other thing about a product business is it usually will be higher volume. You'll get a higher amount of traffic, and so it can be potentially more repeatable, but you also, the expectations are a little bit of quality can be a little bit higher, and the expectations from interactions with salespeople can also be a little bit higher as well, because if you're selling a product, you're more than likely being more compared against more competitors. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, definitely. I guess sort of, like you said, services tend to be, a longer sales cycle, and I guess more focused.
Yeah.
Whereas, products, you provide people more information and they self-select in many cases. Some expensive products, that's more like a service. But there's always a continuum. But no, I think that's helpful. One thing you talked about that's really impressive, because I always talk to people about focusing and who's their target market, and almost always the target market that they have is way too big for their resources and capabilities. Mm-hmm. And it's really about niching down. So I think your example of what you do, and it's not just that you do what you do, but you do it for pest control businesses. Yes. So you're the expert in that space, and finding ways to niche down in that way is key. So, as your business owner, and actually just tell us again, what's your target market so that people can really understand how you niche down?
Yeah. So partially it was by accident rather than design. But when I understood that, so I inherited, so just by background, I have purchased the agency that I'm currently running, and so I've been running it for a period of time. But there were some established clients that were already part of the agency. So one of the first things I went through was looking at all the clients and what did I like about them, what didn't I like about them. I had a wide variety, but what I did find is, I mentioned pest control, and I work with a lot of home services business. That's probably my niche, where that would include like HVAC, window cleaning, carpet cleaning, painters, but pest control businesses have been really fun because they have a high sales volume. And so we talk a lot about how to optimize like a high velocity sales process, tons of leads coming in, tons of dollars spent on ads, and constant refinement of their process. And they also, I like about them that so they're in a very competitive space. There's a lot of people, there are a lot of pest control companies. There's a lot of pest control brokers and technicians. So there's a lot of facets to the business, but they're very competitive and they always want to adopt the newest technology. And so with my pest control clients, I feel like they're the most open to talking about how could we put AI here, or how could we utilize a more powerful automation here. And so not only do I find them more interesting, but I do find them the most of the mindset that hard work equals success, and that they can always be improving. I don't want to bash on a particular industry, but I have had clients that are a little bit like down in the dumps, like, oh, no good sales are ever going to happen to me. And so, so there's a combination of, I find them to be good businesses, and I really enjoy the attitude of these home services businesses. So.
Okay, no, that's great. And, it's amazing. Like you mentioned, there's so many different aspects just to the pest business. Yeah. And you can grow a multi-million-dollar business just in that niche. So it's, it's important to, understand as a business owner, the more focused you are, the more effectively you sell. Mm-hmm. And, generally there's more than enough business within any niche that you choose and that you're able to service effectively. So, so cool. So, one of the things we hear of is, when you associate leads, they're always like, well, you have to nurture your leads and, and engage with them. So what does that mean, and how is that done?
That's a great question. Of course, there's a wide variety, but it comes down to communicating with them periodically. And so ideally, you can have meaningful conversations with people and continue to establish trust until at some point in the future, you are the only choice for them, the only person that they would trust to do this particular service, because you've been there for them for so long. Now, utilizing a CRM or an automated process for communication is critical. So if you're using a software that allows you to schedule emails in advance, you absolutely should. And there was a question about recycling unqualified leads for future campaigns. Thanks, John. These leads, so nurturing, that's the role of nurturing. And we talked about red, yellow, and green light leads. Now, your red light leads, if they, I would put very minimal effort into these, like very passive effort. If you're sending out a newsletter, or if you're posting a blog, like that potentially could suffice. But with your yellow light leads that the timing just wasn't right, or that the budget, they just needed to grow their business to it just a little bit more to be able to afford your services. Those yellow light leads are the ones that need to be nurtured. You can nurture them with ongoing newsletters that provide value, with whether it's updates about the industry or best practices for this upcoming spring season, and how to get your house and yard ready for changing temperatures. You can also periodically send them specials, special offers. Frequent one that a lot of my service businesses will say is, we had a cancellation near you. Would you say, like, your window's clean today? I've got a technician in the area and I can give you a discount. And that can apply in reality, or you're just throwing out a 50% discount just to see what they react to. But the nurture, you should have consistent flows and then attention getters. So between those two, over the long term, you should be able to nurture them very well. Now, I work on a CRM platform, and so I'll say that within a CRM platform, you can track the history of communications you've had with any client. And you can also tag them as having been interested in a specific thing at a specific point in the past, or you can take notes of past conversations. And so some point, assuming you have provided sufficient value, they will come back to you and they will be ready to buy. And this context will be extremely valuable for those sales conversations. So I really recommend nurture, but I don't recommend doing it manually. I recommend putting people in a process, having potentially a newsletter with updates about your business, or encouraging them to join a community you run. Andrew does a great job here with his live videos, but if you have a Facebook business group or LinkedIn business group, Facebook business group is a little bit better. I'd prefer that. But if you can keep them in the community and engaged and hearing about the success stories of others, that's a tremendous resource.
Okay, excellent. So, nurturing leads, and I really liked your, how you talked about qualifying leads through the BANT method. First they got to be able to afford you through the budget. Showing that you have the authority so that they choose you. Showing that they have the need for what you offer, but the thing that's going to drive whether they buy from you and when they buy from you is timing. Do they need it right now? Mm-hmm. And, that's really the key. That's why you nurture them. If they haven't heard from you in 6 months when they need something, they probably heard from someone else sooner, and they may be more top of mind than you are. So yeah. So, I think that's key. So now, an hour just isn't enough time, especially when I have great, knowledgeable people like Reed on the show. But he's definitely shared a whole lot of valuable information. So, hopefully, you're taking nuggets away from what we talked about, because there's a lot in there. But I also know that people can usually only remember 3 things. So we also want to, before Reed leaves, have them, really list the top 3 things that you should take away from our conversation tonight that you can implement within your business starting tomorrow. So, Reed, I'm going to give you a minute to sort of come up with that. And while he's doing that, I'm going to share some information or a video about one of the ways that I do lead nurturing. So here we go.
Will 2025 be your best year ever? My mission is helping 1,000,008 business owners to sell more, maximize profit, and finance growth by 2028. My vision is to create the ultimate business ecosystem for entrepreneurs. Hi, Andrew here with the plan of the week. As everybody knows, failing to plan is planning to fail. And that's why I created the POW. Incorporating the POW into your weekly routine will help you achieve success faster and easier. Each week, we have a different theme in addition to valuable tips from last week's live stream guest expert, online and in-person events that you don't want to miss, the profile of our member of the week, which could be you, and find out about opportunities for grants, contracts, and other resources. Last but not least, test drive our free mini course of the week on Small Business Pro University. Scroll down through the POW for business tips, opportunities, and more event details. I look forward to helping you make 2025 your best year ever. And always remember, the more that you know, the faster your business will grow.
Good evening. We're back with Reed Hansen talking small business. Topic tonight is not all leads are created equal. We've had a powerful show with a lot of knowledge and information being shared, but really to encapsulate it in the top 3 things that we talked about tonight, what would you say those are, Reed?
Yeah, great. And thanks for giving me a minute to jot these down. So the first thing I'd say is that qualification of your sales leads is critical for managing your effort and your time in the most profitable way possible. And you can use the framework BANT to do so. So you can ask these questions very early in the process and get the answers you need to continue the process. Budget, can they afford you? Authority, are they the decision maker? Need, do they actually need your product? And timing, are they ready to buy now? So that's number 1. Number 2 is you can utilize technology like web forms in a variety of places, both on your website, Google Forms, your Facebook ads, to do part of that qualification process for you. Ask them questions, ask them open-ended questions, and have them describe why they might need your product or service. And finally, remember that there are red light leads that just are not worth pursuing. There are yellow light leads that are not ready to buy today, but otherwise could be ready in the future. And there are green light leads, which you should take through to the completion of the lead to customer transition cycle. But the yellow light leads you should nurture with automated communication with newsletters and specials, and potentially have a community where they're invited to join and hear success stories.
Okay, excellent. So we've heard it, 3 key things. Business owners never have enough time and put out a lot of effort. So, qualifying your leads allows you to conserve on both of those. So that's an important thing, and generate more revenue. When we talk about technology, there's so many tools available now that weren't available before. And, you can really do a lot of the lead generation and qualification by using the right technology. So definitely that's important. We talked a lot about that. So dig into the show and you can check it out. And then there's different categories of leads that you have to approach different ways. Putting them in categories. So this has been great, Reed. So thank you for joining me tonight.
My pleasure.
Definitely you shared a lot of things that the audience will benefit from. Also I would say that you're a pretty friendly guy, so people can definitely should definitely feel comfortable to reach out to you on LinkedIn. So if you want to reach out to them on LinkedIn, it's in the chat. As well, if you want to learn more about what Reed does and how he does it, definitely you can learn more at his website. And here's Reed's website. So that's in the chat as well. And, with that said, anything else you want to share before we close out, Reed?
I would just say that, keep an eye on AI and where AI can fit in your processes. I feel like AI is the non-technical person's technology, and the more familiar you get with it today, you'll just be so happy that tomorrow that you took that step.
Okay, excellent. So thanks again for being on the show. Hang out for a minute while I close things out, and looking forward to continuing the conversation. So definitely always appreciate people tuning in. Thanks for all the comments and questions on the show. That always makes the show better and more effective, and also helps make sure that you learn, and what's important to you and interesting to you is addressed. So definitely appreciate that. Each week we have a great guest and a great topic. So next week, what we're going to be talking about is cracking the code in terms of improvising, adapting, and overcoming. Definitely as a business owner, there's a lot of challenges that you're going to face, but that doesn't mean to give up. Many places business owners get stuck, but we're going to talk about how to get unstuck and keep moving your business forward. So hopefully you can join us then. My guest is T. Shane Johnson, and we'll be talking small business. So same time, same place, 8 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday evening, here on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So, as we close out, one of the key things that it's always important to understand is that the more you know, the faster and more successfully your business is going to grow. Thanks for hanging out with me this evening.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at SBProU.com.